All right. Well, welcome back to Brilliant Fishing. Today I'm here with Jeff King, King of the Lake Guide Service. I almost said King of the Hill Guide Service. And we're going to talk catfishing today. And Jeff has got some good information he's going to share with us today about catching trophy-sized catfish on some of our local lakes. And so before we get, I guess, too kind of down the rabbit trail of, the tackle and the bait and all that, let's just kind of tell me just a minute. And I forgot to ask you this earlier. Which lakes are we talking about? Which lakes are you typically?
We mostly
fishing?
fish all the Yadkin lakes.
The Yadkin lakes.
I would say our home lake is Baden Lake for sure.
Baden, okay.
Just because it seems to be more fishable lately. Just it's not as, it doesn't get as crowded,
right?
Especially in
Don't
the spring.
tell everybody.
In the spring and the summer. But we like to fish all of them. Whether it be High Rock, Baden, Tillery, a little bit of Tuckertown here and there. But definitely High Rock, Baden, and Tillery.
Okay. Okay. Well, good. So one thing I did want to ask you before we get too in depth is, why catfishing? Because a lot of guys, it's deer hunting or it's golf or it's it's this or that. So what is it about catching these big catfish that does it for you?
I've always been into fishing since I was a little boy. My grandfather took me fishing a lot when I was young. My dad took me fishing when I was a boy. I spent a lot of time on the fishing pier when I was young. So I started fishing, and it's just something that I picked up and took off with. And then when I was in my 20s, I caught up with a buddy of mine from high school, and we went catfishing one time, and I caught a 24-pound blue cat at Baden Lake.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I had a ski boat, and the next week it had 8 rod holders on it, and eight fish bite rod holders.
Right.
And ever since then, I've just been hooked on catfishing. For me, knowing that it's the biggest fish in the lake,
right?
It gives you the chance of catching the biggest fish anywhere around here you go. It's the catfish is giving you the chance of the biggest fish in the lake,
right?
We're dragging baits around, or throwing baits out looking for maybe 100-pound fish,
right?
That's kind of what the appeal for me.
Yeah, that would be exciting. Yeah, they are. When they get that big, they're top of the food chain.
Oh yeah.
They're not in danger of getting eaten by anything else.
No, there's no real predators in our lakes for the fish. So.
Right. We've been trying to get this together for a while and so forth, and trying to get you to come in and get our schedules to align. And now that it finally has, we're right in the middle of some prime fishing time.
Oh yeah.
So we're recording this is November, beginning of November. Is this kind of about the best time?
From November to February, March. From now until we call it the spawn, when the fish start spawning, when the water starts warming back up. But from now until then, it's really prime time. Obviously the weather's a little colder, but the bite's definitely as hot as it gets.
That's awesome.
Especially as the water does cool down more, those fish will really settle into a more settled pattern. You can either one day they'll be in the deep water, and you can go out there, and whether you drift through them or you anchor up on a ledge and get baits in that deep water, or whether one day they're all in that shallow water because they're looking for some something where the bait's in a little bit warmer water one day. They really seem to get grouped up as the water cools off, and it makes them fun to catch.
Well, now that you bring that up, let me ask you a little bit about that. So when you're out and you're talking about some different places they might be, what do you look for when you if you're to go out on Baden today? What are you looking for on your graph? To tell you where to fish, or maybe not on the graph. Maybe you're looking at
definitely different times of year. You're looking for different things. This time of year you start following the bait around for sure. Those fish are starting to get ready for those cooler temperatures, where their metabolism, slows down a little bit. And, so if you can follow that bait around, they're going to stick with that bait so they don't have to work as hard to find meals. And if you can find those big schools of bait, especially big bait, if you can find the big schools of the bigger shad or wherever the striper are or the crappie, those catfish are going to be right underneath them. And, if you can get your bait in there and it's not too much competition, you'll definitely catch some fish.
Okay. So finding the bait, I mean, that sounds like a good key. And, as the winter kind of wears on, I mean, we have a lot of the birds show up.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's going to tell you where a lot of the surface bait is.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do too. I like to look for, you'll see that bait, especially on your fish finder or, like you said, looking for birds. But if you can find bait that's a little further down in the water column, that definitely will help you find, more active feeding fish. You'll be able to see those fish kind of coming up through the fish. The bait will be a little more broken up than, just that solid cloud of bait. And, that just indicates to you that there's some feeding fish coming up through there, kind of busting it up. And that's definitely what I look for, too.
Okay. So, then before we started recording, you were just kind of telling me that you've gotten on some pretty good ones here lately.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about the one you were telling me about.
Yeah, I had a real good trip last week. Was out by myself, just had a few hours to get out, and got going down through a drag that hadn't made in a while, in some deep water, 45, 50 foot of water, and when I say a drag, I'm pulling a couple planer boards on each side and then a couple rods straight out the back. So those planer boards, obviously they help keep those lines spread out. And one of the boards on the outside just got yanked straight towards the middle of the boat and then disappeared. And when I reeled down on it, I knew it was a good fish. And finally got him to the side of the boat and by myself, and when he come up, and he was full of air coming up out of that deep water, and I really thought I thought I had a monster, which it was a monster. It was a 61-pound blue cat.
Goodness sakes!
I had to wrestle him in the boat by myself, and
it's as big as a middle schooler.
it was a big fish, so it was a lot of fun. Caught another, kept going, trolling down through there. Ended up catching a 47-pounder the same night.
That's a big one, too.
So, 2 fish for about 107, 108 pounds.
Goodness sakes.
Was pretty impressive. So, I think caught over 10 fish that night. Which most of them are going to be in that 5 to 15-pound range is what we've been catching.
Right.
But it's always fun. Those are definitely the ones we're looking for. And I drag a lot bigger baits than what a lot of people tend to.
Okay.
And I think that keys in on catching those big fish too.
Okay. Well, big fish, big bait, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
A lot of guys, they're dragging, a smaller piece of gizzard shad or, some fillets. I have no problem dragging a 10-inch perch with the tail cut off of it and throwing it out there and dragging it around.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, big bait bring in a big fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of perch out there.
That's right.
To use.
Yeah, and that's definitely my go-to.
You
bait.
Like perch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just it seems to work well first off, and then second, they're so easy to catch. We have a lot of fun catching them.
Yeah, they are fun.
It's something that you can go out there and do. I tell people if you don't have fun doing this, you don't have a heartbeat. I mean, we go out there and catch them 2 or 3 at a time. And the last couple of weeks we've been on some real big ones too. I mean, they're hammered. Man. I mean, pulling down under the boat, it's a lot of fun.
It is fun. They're scrappy,
and they make great bait. So
they do, yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm not above eating one of them once in a while too. If you get a big one, man, they're good.
They're great eating that good white meat.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, it's real flaky.
That's why the fish like them.
That's right. Yep.
Well, I want to circle back around to you said something earlier, and then one of the pictures you showed me too. You're doing a lot of night fishing right now.
Yep.
Is that because you like it better at night, or is that just when you're free to fish, or
a little bit of both? It has seemed lately that the night bite has been a little better.
Okay.
Don't know if it's just something with the weather or what it is, but it seems like the bite's been a little bit better.
Okay.
From that sunset to about midnight.
Okay.
Fished a couple morning trips and just haven't had quite as much action. Mark fish in the same areas and just not quite the same bite rate.
Right. I think everybody's got a different opinion on this, but I'll ask you too. If you want to weigh in on like the moon, do you think that has any?
Yeah, I try not to pay too much attention to it.
You don't pay much attention. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know maybe for catfish if it made a difference or not.
I think if you're fishing, in 3 to 5 foot of water and it's a full moon, straight up and down. Then obviously it might affect a little bit because it's just the light. But I think if you're fishing in 50 foot of water, then I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Whether it's a full moon or no moon or those fish they don't care what that moon's doing down there. They're just down there eating.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think could see it better if they're in shallow water.
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about the pressure and all that. And I just say go fishing as much as you can go fishing.
Yeah, well, I always like what old Richard Gene says. He says, "Go fishing when you can, because it's good for you."
That's right.
If we go back just for a minute, we were talking about the big fish. You showed me a picture of the big one you caught the other night. Made me want to ask you this. So what's like your PB? Like, what's your biggest fish?
So my personal best is 75 pounds. I caught that up on the James River in Virginia. That was a real special trip. Me and my dad made a trip up to Virginia for a benefit tournament for one of our fellow catfishermen. He had a heart attack a couple years back. He's doing great. Joe Granada. So we went up there to fish that tournament and went up for a couple days to pre-fish. First day up there, fished a couple spots, had a slow start. On one of our spots, Dad ended up catching like a 65 pounder, huge fish, his new personal best. So, we're on this great high, this is great, we're ready. Friday, we went out there and fished another spot that morning, didn't really catch much, and then went to another spot and then I caught a 75 pounder. And just a monster of a fish, then that Saturday, our buddy Shane came up to fish with us in the tournament. Yeah, I think you know Shane.
No, Shane Walser.
Shane Walser.
Okay.
Got
him on the catfish.
That's
boat.
right.
Okay.
So we put him on the catfish boat, and we didn't catch a fish all day. So.
That's funny.
But that's how it goes. That's fishing. So they raised a lot of good money that day for Joe and his family, and it was a special trip with my dad. So.
That's neat to be able to fish with your dad.
Yeah. I'm lucky to get to fish with him as much as I do.
Right.
He was my tournament partner for years.
Okay.
And we get to spend a lot of time fishing together, so that's fun.
That's fun to have something like that you can do together.
Yeah.
I remember fishing with my dad growing up. It was always a lot of fun. Yep. Let's talk a little bit. I wanted to see what kind of insights you have as far as fishing our local lakes, catching these trophy catfish. You mentioned on the bait end, you really like perch. Do you want to just kind of take us back up the line, like what's kind of your bait, what kind of rigs, tackle, rods, reels, line, all that kind of stuff?
So just as far as to catch perch, we use just a 2-hook bottom rig with either some red worms or some cut shad, anything like that, some minnows, and go out and try to catch as many as we can. if you find them schooled up, it's nothing to catch, 50 or 100 within, an hour or two. And, I like to do that because then I can take them home. I've got a tank at home. I try to keep stocked up for trips.
Okay.
And then, I'm running, I usually run anywhere from 6 to 8 rods. When I'm trolling or I call it trolling or dragging. So I've got the iPilot trolling motor, we put out, and I'll get it in the water and cast some rods out and clip some planer boards on, and we just cruise down through there wherever we mark some fish. I typically try to get out and if I know there's an area that I've been looking at, I'll go down through there and try to make sure there's still some fish there, or and then ride back up and get everything set up, get my trolling motor out, get my rod set up, and then decide which way we're going to go down through there. Okay.
You got a speed you like?
Yeah, I typically, obviously with the water temperature, that affects that.
Sure.
But 0.5 is always kind of the target goal.
Okay.
And, that varies. Some trips, that 0.5 is where it's at. Some trips, 0.3, it seems, you got to slow down, and you'll get bit every time you can slow down and stay straight. Sometimes you'll speed up to make a turn, and that inside rod or that outside rod will get hit. And if it's that inside rod, then you kind of know, it's a little slower, or if it's the outside, it's a little faster. So it kind of gives, you kind of just have to read it and see what the fish are doing that day, or go from there.
So do you like your because I heard you say you're keeping a tank at home with perch. So you like them live, or you like?
No, I just like to keep them fresh. I think the freshest bait you can have is always going to be the best ticket. I've tried frozen bait over the years, and I've tried vacuum sealing it. I've tried flash freezing it.
Sure.
And, it just seems
probably
that
not as good.
Yeah, it just seems that if you can have it, live and fresh, it's always the best.
Yeah. It's probably a difference between having like real pizza and frozen pizza.
That's right.
Or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of it is confidence thing.
Sure.
If you're confident in it, that's fine. But that's what I tell people about any of your fishing gear. Whether it's a low rance or a hummingbird, or whatever you're confident in is what you're going to catch fish with. Because if it's like a batter going up to the plate. If you go up there and think you're going to hit the ball, you'll hit the ball. If you go up there and don't think you're going to hit the ball, you're never going to hit it.
Well, you're already defeated before you start.
Catching a fish is the same way. If you go to the lake and think I'm not ever going to catch a fish, you're probably not going to catch a fish. So,
we'll circle back around to the rig just for a minute. So, are you using like a Santee rig or something like that?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I drag. I've tried to lately some 3-way rigs just to try to get that bait up off the bottom a little more.
Okay.
You see a few of those suspended fish that are in that 5 to 7, 8 foot off the bottom. So I've tried some 3-way rigs just to get them up, but it just seems that a Santee rig with just a a good cork float is hard to beat. I run a double action hook. It's called a Charlie Brown hook. And it's hard to beat. You can either set the hook on it. I reel down on them just like a circle hook. Okay. So.
I don't think I've ever heard of those Charlie Brown hooks.
Yeah, they're I forgot who they're made by. They're I'd have to look it up, but
okay. Anything you like is like you particularly partial to as far as like your like line and rods, reels, or anything?
I run 30-pound main line on my reels, and then like a 50-pound leader, all mono. I'm a big fan of the mono just because it's got the stretch.
That's kind of nice.
Especially doing as much dragging and trolling as I do. I don't, the braid would be a nightmare. I know a lot of guys, especially down like some of our friends down on the PD and stuff, they run braid fishing the stuff down there. But Yeah, the mono is definitely the way to go, I think, for around here. I mean, as much rock and trees as we've got that gives you the abrasion resistance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Like your rod and reel, you probably heavy action.
I actually run a medium heavy. I run the big Cat Fever medium heavy rods. I've been running those since they come out. It's just hard to beat. It's a great all around rod.
Rods,
yeah, they're good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple that I've had for probably close to 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
I'm still running the OGs. I call them the old black and red ones. And then I run a Okuma classic reel. It's I call it a cheapo. It's a plastic casing reel, but you can get them for $50.
That's what I use for striper trolling.
Yep.
Same thing.
They're perfect.
Yeah, we're good for that kind of thing.
I've gone through a couple I've had to throw away, but the way I look at it is if you're getting them at a better cost, and if you have to throw one or two away over the years, instead of paying $200 for a reel,
it's true.
It's hard to beat. So I've put a lot of miles on a couple of mine.
Well, they're good. They got that star drag system. Yeah,
they got a good clicker on them.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Yeah, they're hard to beat. I run the 200s because the 300s are a little big, but the 200s are perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, good. I think that covers like what I was going to ask you about bait and tackle. Okay, well, let's maybe go around to this. We've talked a lot about like fall fishing, fall and into winter.
Yeah.
What do you do as far as like with other seasons? Now, once you get out of winter, the next sort of major change is the spawn.
Yeah,
do you just hang it up then?
Going in before that, we have you have that spring pre-spawn.
Okay.
And we do some flathead fishing there.
Okay.
So that's when the flatheads really get a little bit more active. You get that good flathead bite in the spring, and then kind of early fall, September, October. But yeah, the spring flathead bite can be really good. It used to be great at High Rock.
Okay.
We used to have spring tournaments at High Rock where you'd have 3 flatheads for 140, 150 pounds.
Oh wow.
But the blues have gotten in there, and there's been a lot of flatheads taken out of High Rock, and the population's just not there anymore. I told people for 10 years that High Rock was probably one of the best flathead lakes in the country, and it's not what it used to be for flathead fishing. Now it's come on strong for blue cat fishing, but it's really gone downhill for flatheads, which is unfortunate. So
yeah, I know. Just trolling for other stuff. I'm not usually targeting catfish, but I know like my bycatch, I'm catching probably 2 to 1, 3 to 1, like blues to other stuff.
Yeah, a lot more blue cats in High Rock,
and they're aggressive too. They're just really aggressive, feeding fish.
Yeah, and with the all the shad that's in High Rock, there's no doubt that those blues will just keep getting bigger and bigger in High Rock. They're gonna. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. They don't have any predators, and there's plenty of stuff to eat.
So much bait.
There's so much bait, and once they get a certain size, they can key in on that bait, and the sky's the limit.
That's right.
Yeah. So
there's been some big ones caught the last couple of years at High Rocks and blues.
I haven't personally heard of any 100 pounders or anything, but they're getting some 60s and 70s maybe.
Yeah, close.
Yeah. So that's some pretty sizable fish.
Yeah, considering that. I've ran tournaments for years, and 5 years ago you never saw a blue cat come out of there that was weighed in a tournament.
No, yeah.
So
getting some size to them.
Yep. So.
Oh, we were talking about the pre-spawn. Let's talk about the spawn a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's something I hear a lot of people. I was talking to a guy the other day. He said, when the spawn comes, it's a good time to just, work on your boat.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was your opinion.
I hear that a lot, and it's one of those things like, I have a hard time just putting my boat up.
You want to fish.
I just can't do it. So the last couple of years, I've really tried to find fish in that period, that June, July, early August period, and it's definitely gotten better. There's a lot of fish suspended that time of year. So using slip corks, dragging baits suspended under planer boards. Stuff like that. You just got to think outside the box. That thermocline sets in here, and when that thermocline sets in, you have to just limit yourself to what you can fish. Whether you're fishing, above it in the deep water or just going and finding shallow water. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got fishing. On our lakes, because the thermocline does get so bad, because we just don't get a ton of water run through our lakes in the summertime when the heat's so bad.
Right.
Was fish where the therm meets the dirt. So So if you can find, if that thermocline's at 30 foot when you're in 50 foot of water, go find some 30-foot water right in that same area. And you'll find right where that thermocline you'll see it on your sonar. You'll see right where the thermocline hits the bottom, and those fish will be right there.
Wow,
and,
that's a good idea. I never thought of that. Never heard that before.
Yep, a good buddy of mine told me that. He catches a lot of fish. So.
Let's talk stories. Got any crazy stories? Anything super wild and crazy that you've seen out on the water?
Man, I'd have to really think about that one. I've definitely been caught in some nasty weather for sure.
Okay.
Some storms we probably shouldn't have been out there in.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know about crazy stories.
Well, that's fine. I just thought I'd ask while I was
I was on Tuckertown one night, anchored up, and it was after we had a lot of rain come through, and I saw something coming down the river, but I couldn't tell quite what it was. And once it finally got to the boat, I realized that it was it had to have been like a 50 or 60 inch. It was one of those old style rear projection TVs.
What?
I guess somebody had thrown it out at some point up the river chain. And
really?
It was making its way down.
Oh my gracious.
And but yeah, that was pretty wild to see coming. I've seen a lot of things coming down the river, but not a old rear projection TV. So that was pretty wild to see.
That's funny. I was fishing with Pete today, and we picked up a line. I said, something's on that line. I mean, what's on that line? So he reels it in, and we caught a hat. Oh yeah, somebody had a hat, and it made me think about craziest thing I ever caught. One time I was long line trolling up on baiting up by Circle Drive, and I said, man, there's something on that line. I reeled it in, and it was a daggum transformer, like a kid's transformer. Yeah. And the kid must have dropped it in the water or something. Yeah. But anyway, I trolled it up, and
that's awesome.
That was crazy. Yeah. You never know what you might see or catch,
Yeah.
Well, all right. So here's one I haven't asked yet. Practical advice for people who are, let's say, aspiring to catch these trophy catfish in our area. I mean, what are some? Let's start here. Maybe some common mistakes that you see people make.
Yes, I would say the biggest mistake that I see people make, is a lot of these new bait trends. I say to use match the hatch. Whatever's in the lake is what those fish eat every day. I hear people tell I tell people all I do is catfish, and they're like, oh, well, do you use chicken, or have you ever tried deer hearts, or have you ever tried? And I'm like, no, catfish don't eat that every day. Use the freshest bait you can find out of that lake. It doesn't have. Or not out of that lake, but fish. Catfish eat fish every day.
Yeah.
Whether it's a piece of shad or a piece of perch or a piece of crappie, find something that fish is eating every day and cut it up and let it bleed a little bit, and that's gonna give you your best chance at catching a fish.
That's some good advice. I mean, it's not that you can't occasionally catch one on something weird, but this is their main thing that they eat every day.
For sure.
So, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Other than that, I would say, There's a lot of good YouTube videos out there, a lot of good local guys that are posting posting stuff. Or obviously book a trip with one of the guides.
Okay.
We love to go. We'd love to have you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about that. So, like, if tell maybe a little bit about what kind of trips you offer, and then if we want to book a trip, how would a person go about doing that, or what would be
we do half-day trips. We can do a 4-hour trip, a 6-hour trip, an 8-hour trip, and that's whatever that's whatever you want to do. You know, we can go try to catch one big fish, or we can go try to fill a cooler full of eater-sized catfish. And we can go catch some perch and some crappie here and there. I do a little bit of crappie fishing, but mostly what we're doing is trying to catch that biggest fish in the
big
lake.
One, yeah.
I like to target those trophy catfish.
Yeah.
So but if you're looking to do something else, there's a lot of great other guides around here too. If you're looking for crappie fishing and striper fishing, there's a lot of great options in this area. So
yeah, there really are. There's a lot of solid people to get hooked up with to go and to do a guided trip with.
Yeah, that's if you're new to fishing. Or you're new, or even if you have a lot of experience in fishing, but you're new to this area, that's a great way to learn.
It really is.
Just get hooked up with somebody, and get out there and get a little time on the water.
For sure.
I tell people all the time, time on the water is your number one asset. Whether you're crappie fishing, striper fishing, bass fishing, that time on the water is going to teach you more than anything that you can learn watching videos or
absolutely
doing anything else.
Yeah, so. If you go with a guide, now that does sort of lessen the learning curve a little bit, but it's still time on the water. Really is necessary. For sure. Yeah,
because things are always going to be a little different on your own boat, using your own tackle, and that just going with somebody just gives you a little bit of a foundation for sure.
Sure, gives you a starting point. Yeah. So if somebody wants to book a trip with King of the Lake Guide Service, you want to get out and catch one of these big bruisers. So what's a good way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way to get in touch with me would be on Facebook. Or you can give me a call. Telephone number is 704-574-9526.
Okay, and we'll post that if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put those links and the phone number in the description down below. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, we'll put it also in the description. Or you can just look them up on Facebook, King of the Lake Guide Service, and you'll know you're on the right one because you're gonna see a guy, big red beard. You'll know when you're at the right place.
That's right.
Okay, well, cool. Was there anything that maybe you want to talk about? I hadn't set you up to talk about, or anything else for the good of our viewership?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, it's a privilege having you with us today. Tonight, I guess we're recording in the evening, but yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've been excited about doing this.
Yeah, I appreciate you working with me all the time, and we added a family member. A little over 6 months back. Yeah. So things have just been a little hectic at home, and with trying to start up this guide service and get everything going, and just trying to build everything up. Everything's just been a little busy, so I appreciate you working with me.
That's no problem.
And
navigating the new dad life, there's a lot involved in that.
That's right. I'm excited to have a new fishing buddy though.
That's it. Yep. That's pretty cool. I know I enjoy fishing with my son, and you fish with my dad, and you fish with your dad. It's a special thing that you get to do.
Pass it on.
Which is really cool. So we're excited about that. Hey, listen, I don't even do a lot of catfishing. I feel like I learned a ton just by sitting here and talking through this with you, and everything from bait and rigs and speeds and seasons and all of that. It was helpful, I think, for me. So I'm sure folks out there will like to listen to it too.
Well, good. Well, let's go fishing sometime.
I'm ready.
All right.
I'll bring the camera with me. We'll film some of these.
Yeah.
catch us some big ones.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.